the book Nature Wants Us to Be Fat kind of represents some breakthroughs in our work trying to figure out the cause of obesity. And the kind of trick that we used, among other things, was not to come at obesity like it's a disease, but rather as something that animals in the wild will sometimes purposely become obese to help them survive. And, the old story of the hibernating bear, right? Everyone knows that the bear gets really fat and then he sleeps through the winter. And during that time when it's hibernating, it lives off its fat. And the fat provides the calories, because when you break down fat, you make energy. And you also make water. When you break down fat, you make water. And so fat is a survival. I mean, it helps animals survive. And there are many, many species, from ants and insects and, fish, lungfish, and all these different species that will use fat to help them survive during periods when food is not available. And when we studied this, we said, here's what does the animal do to become fat? Because normally animals keep their weight right, just like we do when we're young. We can eat anything we want, but we won't gain weight. So we knew there was a switch that animals use to gain weight, and we identified it. We think we did, at least, and it turns out that animals eat a lot of fructose, which is a sugar that's present in fruit. But we know fruit is pretty healthy, and for us it is, because we only eat small amounts of fruit, and the fruit contains all these wonderful things that kind of neutralize and help us. But the fructose itself really is a nutrient that actually tries to get us to store fat. And a bear will eat 10,000 grapes in a day, and we'll eat 10 grapes or something. So there's a big difference in what we're doing. And it turns out that fructose is unique among foods. And when you eat fructose, it actually tricks the system. We have in our bodies, we make energy, and we live. When we eat food, we're generating energy from the food we eat. And the type of energy that we are using from moment to moment has a special name. It's called ATP. And it's some people say it's the currency, it's the money in the bank. But the ATP is what we make, that we use to walk, talk, think, run. Everything we do involves ATP. And that is the active energy. But stored energy is the other type of energy. And when you store energy, it's fat, basically, or starch or glycogen. But mainly it's fat. And so the old theory was that the way we get fat is we eat more than we need, and that excess energy, more than we use, and more, so if we eat too much, that excess energy caps off the ATP, so he keeps the ATP full, and then the extra energy goes into fat. That was the theory. But what we found, and which was so exciting, is that fructose drops the ATP in the cell and fixes it at a lower level. So it creates a low energy state. And then when the food comes in, instead of replenishing the ATP, it goes straight into the fat. And there's this thing called metabolic inflexibility, when you're eating fructose, you can't break down fat very well. So you can't break down the fat to replace the ATP. So the ATP levels stay low for a while. And then as the ATP levels slowly fill up, but at the expense that you've eaten too much and you've stored a lot of fat. And so that's how it works. So the trick is even though you have plenty of energy, you've got fat on you, you've got stored energy, your total energy is high because you got all this fat. Inside, they make your active energy low. And when that happens, it makes you hungry, forage for food, and start gaining weight. And so we realized that fructose was unique, and we did a million studies on it, and we came to the conclusion that this one food turns out to be the food that drives energy intake. It's the one that seems to activate this biologic switch.